Hello, viewers. Welcome back on our channel. You are invincible. I hope you all are doing fantastic, taking good care of yourselves and your dear family and friends. And I hope that 2021 has started off on a fantastic note. Well, we are back again with an amazing and distinguished guest today, all the way from US. I would like to share a few words about her. She is a transformational life coach, a dynamic public speaker, a published author, a filmmaker, and a psychotherapist. She's none other than Stephanie James. She delivers her message in a powerful way to help others find their own internal spark and create their best lives at the next level. Nominated for Fort Collins Woman of the Year in 2014 and a graduate of the University of Denver. Stephanie has an unrelenting commitment to help others ignite their best lives and to become the best versions of themselves. The Spark with Stephanie James is a worldwide weekly radio and podcast created to help you live your best life. Her book, The Spark, Igniting Your Best Life, and the cover is right in front of you. That's the cover of a book. It is available on Amazon. A compelling and inspiring book, The Spark is an excellent guide. With over 30 years in the personal development and mental health field, Stephanie has a passion for connecting with people from all walks of life and continues to fulfill her personal mission to bring as much love and healing to the world as possible. Her soon to be released film, When Sparks Ignite, is about the challenges we all face and how those challenges can actually become the match point that ignites something amazing within us and that can become our gift to the world. Without further ado, I would like to invite Stephanie on our channel. You are invincible.
So great to be here with you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. It's an honor to have you on our show. You're looking gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
So, how are you doing? How's the year started off? I'm sure it must be fantastic.
It has been. It feels like it's just been nonstop, one thing after another, but all good.
Wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. So, if you're ready, would you like to start off with our few questions and our conversation?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, viewers, let's get started. So, Stephanie, the first question to you is, what inspired you to write the book, The Spark?
You know, the book is something that I feel like has been inside of me probably my whole life. I've wanted to write this book. And, after 30 years in the mental health field and personal growth and development field, and having so many of my own life experiences, as well as understanding those of my clients, I think that was a big part of it. And then adding in when I started my show, The Spark with Stephanie James, my podcast and radio show, I had so many amazing just thought leaders in the areas of psychology, spirituality, science, entrepreneurs. And I was so excited to have that wisdom that I gleaned from those interviews. So this is kind of, taking all of those different areas and bringing them together and presenting that knowledge, the wisdom I gleaned from other people, and just life experience in hopefully a way that it's accessible to other people so that I can also spread that spark to help other people ignite their best life.
Wonderful. That's a very noble thought, Stephanie. And viewers, let me tell you this. I have been able to read that book, and that book is phenomenal. It was actually talking to me about how I could lead my life in a better way, and so many examples and so many practical ways to change by writing journals. So you have to get your hands on her book, The Spark. It's a beautiful book. So going on to our next question, Stephanie, is did you have a goal from the beginning that you wanted to achieve, or was it multiple things that you picked up on your life's journey?
So the audio went out for a moment. So your question was, did I
That
have a goal?
I'll repeat my question. Did you have a goal from the beginning that you wanted to achieve, or it was multiple things that you picked up on your life journey?
I would have to say it's been so many different things on life's journey. I definitely, as a little girl, I definitely still had that feeling of, that spark inside of us, which I consider our essence. And I was
Right.
so aware of living in that joyful place as a child. I think through hardships in my life, sometimes that spark was covered up. And
Right.
as I though was able to excavate and do the work that really allowed that to shine, I was able to see that I had a goal that was bigger than my one of my first goals was my first year in college. I went to art school out in LA, and it was
Right.
only when I came back after that in a conversation with a dear friend, Larry Bloom, who's a professor in psychology at CSU here in
Right.
Colorado. He had said to me after a conversation, I had come back from art school and didn't really know what I was going to do. I didn't think I was going to continue in art school. And he said, "Oh my goodness, you are a natural at this. And I know the advisor in this department, so I'll have you go talk to her." And like I
Right.
said, so so the rest is history as far as that goal of wanting to help other people and be in a profession where I was doing that in all different kinds of capacities. But I would say it's been about 15 years ago where I became very clear of that mission that you talked about in the introduction, where I knew my mission was to bring as much love and healing to the world as possible. And so
Right.
that's my own inner goal, my own inner mission. And so I'm trying to do that through the book, the podcast, the film coming up.
There is something more about the film. I was quite excited because I'm an actor myself. So I was like, oh, okay, a film is coming out. That's brilliant. What, when do you think it's releasing and what's it about? Is it your life journey or you are sharing something deeper through some other story? How is it?
So yeah, thank you. It's so exciting. We just finished post-production of it.
Wow.
So we're now actually just this weekend, we're gonna get together, my co-producer Doug Beechwood and I, we're getting together and we're gonna do the trailer. And so
Wonderful.
then we'll be looking at negotiations with Amazon Prime and Netflix and Gaia so that we can hopefully get it out there. And honestly, the idea for this movie came from what I call a download, which is like divine inspiration during a
Right.
meditation. And because I'd had these amazing guests on my show, and honestly had been talking a lot with my dear friend and mentor Jacob Lieberman, who's in the film. He had talked about, wouldn't it be really wonderful if we could get together, a group of us, and sit around a round table? We call it the lights of the round table. And
Oh,
we talk about the things that really matter in life, the really deep questions. And maybe we could film that. Well, my download after this meditation was, oh my goodness, I know some of the most serving hearts and brilliant minds on the planet. And if I could get them together to have not only like a summit where they'd be presenting to a live audience, but where they would come together a couple days ahead of time and
mhm.
have our own experience that we filmed. So what was really cool is 2 days before this summit, and it all happened. I had 11 of my guests come. I was the 12th
Wow.
presenter. And what was so wonderful is these people make tens of thousands of dollars to speak, and they all came for free. They all just
Wow.
wanted to be a part of it. They believed in this project. And so what it really is about is what you alluded to in the introduction. It really is about the challenges that we face, that we all go through these hard times. And the first part of the film was our first day of filming there, where these people that are New York Times best-selling authors and international presenters were sharing the pain in their life. They were sharing the challenges or the
Mm.
hardships they had faced. And then it goes into, we did call it the Lights of the Round Table. We all 12 sat around a table and talked about a lot of answers to those deep questions. So there was so much,
Mm.
knowledge and wisdom shared there. And then there was this beautiful alchemy created by this group of people who meditated together, and we made music together. We, ate food together, danced together, and
Wow.
that beautiful alchemy of relationship on stage the next day. So that's hopefully what the film is it becomes inspiration that, we all, as we do our own healing work, as we face those
True.
challenges, we can come through them, and then we can help ignite those sparks in one another. So that's really what the
So
film
true.
is about.
It sounds so exciting. It's the same thing like in the book also you say about the inner knowingness that we all have, which can be a guiding light to our life. But your film, it sounds so exciting. I'm looking forward to be able to see it soon on either of these OTT platforms. It'll be fantastic. Wishing you all the best for the same.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We move on to the next question, which is every human being has thoughts running throughout the day, like a monkey. We all have this chat going on non-stop. And depending on the thoughts, he creates a future knowingly or unknowingly. How can one create a better future through the thoughts that one creates?
Great question. Great question. Um, and I didn't read your questions ahead of time because I definitely wanted to just have it be organic.
Wonderful.
So I haven't thought this through yet, but I will tell you that the wonderful thing is we have more power over our well-being than we're aware of. And so much of it is through our thoughts, because we have these habitual thoughts that run through our mind so often. I've
Mm,
heard a statistic that we have about 86% of the thoughts that we had yesterday, and then the day before that. We don't have a lot of
wow.
new thoughts. We're very habitual. So we get a lot of these unconscious or subconscious negative beliefs, unfortunately, because so much of our mind is guided by what is called a natural negativity bias. And that's the part of our brain, it's
Mm,
always scanning the environment for a threat. And it's really there to keep us safe. And it does, and unfortunately, though, it can also keep us in a negative belief system because we're focusing on the negative. So
right.
yeah. And so I like to think about negative experiences as we experience negative things. It's like Velcro in our brain.
Yes.
Our brain just holds on to that, right? So if we touch
Yes.
a hot
Yes.
stove when we're little, we don't have to touch it twice. We
Correct.
know
Correct.
our brain has filed that away. No need to touch the hot stove. And
Right.
so what is also true is that positive experiences are like fried eggs on a Teflon pan. They just
Teflon.
slide
Yes.
right off. Yeah.
I
Because our
read
brain,
about in the book.
yeah, our brain doesn't hold those as thinking, oh, I need this positive experience to survive.
Mm,
So
mm,
you can think of your brain like a filing cabinet, and it's constantly purging information it doesn't think we need. So when you're
right.
saying, I think it's important that we realize, though, and I tell people this a lot, the power that we have, the power is in the present moment. So we can bring our attention
Mm,
to how we want to change our thoughts in the here and now. When we become aware, that's the first thing, right? Awareness is the key. When I become aware that
true.
something's a negative thought or a habitual negative thought, I can really examine the truth of it. And I'll tell you, one of the ways I love to do this is if you catch yourself having a negative belief over and over again, there's a beautiful book by Byron Katie called Loving
Mhm.
What Is. And in that book,
Loving what is.
Loving What Is, and what she teaches people to do is to question these negative thoughts. And it's very simple, but
Mm,
Abhishek, it's like you would say to yourself, is that thought true? Well, it feels true. Like if my
mm,
thought is, you know, people don't support me. Let's say someone has a thought, people don't support me at work. Well, then you have to think, okay, is that true? Well, not everybody. Some people really show up. And the second question is it absolutely true? So sometimes there might be a slight bit of truth in it, but it's not absolutely true. And then the third question I invite people to think of is who would you be or how would you feel if you no longer had that belief? And then who would you be and how would you feel if you believed something a little closer to the truth? And it's a great way to
correct.
untwist our negative thinking and begin to adopt a more positive mindset.
Wow. At the end of it, it sounds so simple because it's our own thoughts which is creating the negative, as well as we have the power within, the knowingness, to be able to transform that into positive. And it takes like an instant of,
Mhm.
reminding yourself, ki, oh, you're going either in the direction of your past, or you're having the thoughts towards the future, which creates anxiety, which creates a lot of instability in your mindset. It's just so that click, oh, come back. This is a pleasant moment, and from there, then, as you rightly said, to have those affirmations or have those positive thoughts to build it from there. It's so simple, but still, we human beings, we make it so complicated.
We really do. And you really nailed it because I think what we do is we get, especially in our world today, we can get really scared and people get very fearful when they think of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen in the world? And they start worrying about the future. Well, the future's not happening, but they're having that emotional experience now. And it happens too when
Right.
we have regrets or we feel bad about the past. That's not happening now either, but we're still having those
Mm,
negative emotions. So when I say, the point of power is in the present moment, we can bring ourselves right here and actually guide our thoughts to think about what we want to think about. Because the truth is that we can also hold up a memory, something that really was a
yes.
lovely time in our life, and someone maybe that we love and we're really connected to. And as we do that, we start feeling those good feelings because once again, our mind is experiencing it as happening now. So I always
True,
say to
true.
people too that are saying these negative fears about the future, I said, if you're going to fantasize about something good. Don't create a negative fantasy about the future. Bring yourself into the present moment
Absolutely.
and plan something positive.
Absolutely. That would be such a beautiful journey towards transformation, towards a beautiful future. Like so many times, and for me also, there are moments where we all procrastinate, we all think about things. Though what I really like to do is I go back in the past and pick up those memories, which you rightly said, even in the book you have mentioned, to pick up the memories which give you joy, which give you that happiness, the point where you felt elated, not because there's a materialistic thing, but you felt that umpteen joy in your heart because of that experience. So if we can relive that right now, that again is like a seed for our so-called future, which is going to come, to make it more magnanimous and magnificent.
You've got it.
I hope all the viewers are listening to you and they'll understand this basic concept, which is so easy. But yeah, I mean, we all have our own journey and we take a while to understand how to live life correctly.
Well, and I think it's really important what you said. It is very simple. It's very simple. We don't have to make it so hard. And we can really cut our suffering in our lives down, truly, by changing the
Yes,
thoughts that we focus on. We don't have to go through a
true.
life creating so much self-suffering.
So true. So true. Wonderful. That brings us to the next question, Stephanie, which is how can one remove old emotional mental blocks which stop them from creating a better future? The deep emotional mental blocks that I guess quite a lot of people have.
Hmm. You
Is there
know,
any easy way, or I did read about the EMDR which you practice? Does one need to go through that at that level, or how would a common layman be able to remove these emotional trauma or mental blocks that we have?
yeah, great question. I do think that when someone's experienced what I call big T trauma, which means it's something very serious that they've gone through, then oftentimes the brain holds on to trauma, and we can do talk therapy all day and it still won't heal in the brain. The brain still holds on to it. And that's when that happens, when people still find themselves like soldiers, people that I've worked with from the military that have PTSD, which is post traumatic stress disorder, they can't just get
Mhm.
over it. They can't just think themselves well, if you will.
Mm,
So they do
mm,
need something a little more serious, which is EMDR is a beautiful protocol. It's a beautiful therapy that helps literally people separate the memory of the trauma from their
mhm,
physiological or emotional response to it. So it's
mhm,
really a beautiful therapy, and I've seen it do things that feel like miracles for people that have come in. Um, I have so many examples of people that came in and felt like they couldn't live their lives.
wow.
I have people that, one that sticks out in my mind is a woman who had someone break into her home, and she couldn't
Mhm,
be in the basement where that happened. She couldn't be in those rooms. And here we are, there 12 weeks later, it's a very fast acting therapy as well. And it rewires the way that your brain holds trauma. So it was so beautiful. 12 weeks later, not only was she back to living in all the rooms of her house, she no longer had anxiety. She was no longer having panic attacks. And so she was living
wow.
her life again. It's so beautiful. So there's that extreme. I do think we all have limiting beliefs. We all have these
True.
blocks that get in our way. And I would say the first thing to getting through that is just that awareness of what are your limiting beliefs. It's the first key again, is awareness. So if what we do is what I encourage people to do, and I just had my first Igniting Your Best Life group last night. So
Oh, lovely.
it was wonderful to be joined by all these people, and that's exactly what we started working on, was identifying what are these beliefs that we want to change, because sometimes they're so unconscious we don't even realize they're under there, right?
True. It's like you're
So
living them so naturally that you don't even know they exist.
yes. And I can give an example from my own life. I've been so driven in my life. I was the oldest child in my family and put myself through graduate school as a single mother. I definitely always felt like I'm working hard, I'm striving, I'm achieving, always important to be successful. On the outside, that can look really great. And when I realized later on, I was taking a course, a weekend course about 10 years ago, and they were
Mhm.
asking us to really dig into some of our behaviors to look at what were our limiting beliefs, what did we need to change. Well, interestingly, underneath that really driven, seemingly positive behavior was actually a wound from when I was a little girl at 13 years old, when my family broke apart, when my parents got divorced. And the thought that I had in my mind at that time is, nobody's there for me. I have to do it all on my own. Now, that wasn't true, But that was the wound in me, right? That was the wound from having these parents
Mm,
that were
mm.
struggling and my family
Hard
breaking.
time. Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very hard time.
Yeah.
So what's powerful though is that I was able to identify that and then think of what is it that I want to believe instead. Now, in this particular
Mm.
course I was in, the instructor said, I want you to think of an affirmation that is like blown up, make it really big so you can see evidence of it. And you can start a journal where every night for 30 days, so 30 nights, at the end of the day, you would write to this one affirmation all the evidence that showed up to support the new affirmation.
Beautiful.
So the new affirmation for me was I'm completely loved and supported by the universe.
Right.
And so what a beautiful journey is I started writing down the evidence of that every day. Right away, things started showing up. I mean, the truth is, it was probably already happening. I already was supported. I just didn't
Right.
see it. I wasn't focused
You just
on
become
it.
more aware. Yes.
Yeah, yes. So right away, I had these beautiful messages from girlfriends that were appearing on my phone. They'd always appeared. I just weren't, again, wasn't paying attention. In 1 week, I had two different baristas give me a free cup of coffee at my favorite coffee shop. And they were just so lovely, like,
Wow.
oh, we just love when you come in here, and things like that. And as I continued to collect this data, what it did is it started changing my mindset. I kept
Mm.
seeing evidence over and over again that said, you are completely loved and supported by the universe. And I have to tell you, about 2 weeks in of doing this 30-day journaling activity, I
Mm-hmm.
had gone with my daughter Haley. We went out and had a big day out and came home, and the water heater of the house I lived in the basement, the
Yeah.
old heater, the bottom had rusted out and flooded the basement.
Oops.
And there was
Oh,
just
oh,
this,
that's.
yeah, it was just this, and so there was this standing water everywhere. And I went outside,
Oh my
and
goodness.
the wonderful neighbors all came over, two sets of neighbors with shop vacs, with fans. And then a girlfriend of mine, she and her husband lived 4 houses down, and they saw the commotion,
Yes.
came
They
over,
came. Yeah. Yeah.
and then she said, "What's going on?" And I told her. She came back 15 minutes later and handed me $1,000 check. And she said, "I know you
Exactly.
don't have
Wow.
money for this right now. You go ahead.
See,
My husband
the
has a
PS
truck.
later.
We'll get it fixed."
Yeah.
So at that point, Abhijit, I was like, I can't deny the support that's there and the love that's there that just was spontaneously happening. But it happened because I was focused on it too, right? I was really noticing it,
Right.
and then it kept showing up. But that did change my life. I mean, it truly did. I was so much more open to allowing other people to help me after that. See, it was my own block in my own mind. It wasn't the world. It really was that believing is seeing, not seeing is believing.
True. True. True.
Yeah.
It's one of the famous things that I keep hearing from a lot of people is it's like we are like a child, and the universe is there to give us gifts. So whatever you want to ask is like a candy bar. So it's you want to have this kind of candy, you want to have that kind of candy. That could be anything. It could be materialistic. It could be whatever one thinks of. But to let it out towards the universe and to actually be aware and believe and have that trust that it will be delivered at the right point of time when you are ready to accept it. I mean, I always like your whatever you shared right now, you became so aware and you were focused about, okay, now I want to change my mindset because it's for me to internalize and become a better person, not for anybody else primarily, but first for me, so that when my life becomes beautiful, it would radiate the same outwards. So that's how these, so many examples, so many experiences kept coming. I'm sure it's still like even for your film, even the download that you had, because you're so aware, you're so focused to be in the present. It's beautiful, seriously.
Thank you. Thank you. And as
So,
you say that, one of the things I feel like that it's important for me to share as well that I think has really helped the flow of
yeah.
that happen in my life is it's
Hmm.
almost been 4 years ago now, but about 4 years ago, I really had this place where I came to total surrender. And instead of trying to, say, this is how I want things done, this is how things need to be, it really is that place of total surrender to the divine, where you say, I'm not going to push my will. I'm literally going to open up, like, you take it. You take it, divine, and I'm gonna let you guide me. I'm gonna listen. And I think when we quiet
Hmm.
ourselves and find that still voice inside of us, and we
Hmm.
allow that connection, we can really allow these miracles to start manifesting in our lives. And they do show up, like you said, it's just serendipity and spontaneous. So it's, yeah, really, really
Right,
exciting.
right. I'm gonna ask you a question related to that. So when you say to completely surrender yourself to the divine, to the universal energy, and so what happens to the causes that one needs to actually put as a human being towards whatever we want? So do we put in causes from our side and then uh, let the universe or the higher power take it forward, or we keep a mindset very clear and this is what I want to do, this is what I want. Now it's up to you, the higher power, to show me the path and lead me towards what I want. So there are two different things. You put in the causes, you like doing this, I'm going to do this, I'll go ahead and meet these people and blah, 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 da, 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 da. And then, okay, now I'm done. I'm done. Now you take it from here. Or it's like you're sitting very calmly and like, okay, this is what I envision. You take it from here. Like two different paths. So which one would you think is the right or what we should be doing?
Actually, I think both, exactly what you're saying. It's both and. I do think there is
Okay.
such power in defining what it is that we want in our lives. And like you said, really being clear about that vision. And it's
Hmm.
okay
Hmm.
to desire things and to say, oh, I'd love to have, you know, a vacation home, or I would love to have, it could even be, I just would love to have peace of mind, or I would love
True.
to have more time to work in my garden, whatever it would be. But as we get really clear on what those things are, then I think we can go to
Hmm.
that place that you're talking about and that I was speaking of, where you just say, okay, I'm letting it go and I'm going to trust that divine timing will happen, that the right circumstances will show up, the right people.
Hmm.
And my experience over my whole life has been that has happened over and over and over again. There's times that I forgot, of course, how to do this. And that was probably at that moment, there was really, life had kind of brought me to my knees at that point 4 years ago when I
Hmm.
was surrendering. And I had struggled with one of my daughter's addictions for about 10
Hmm.
years at the time. And thank God,
Wow, that's a
she
long
went,
time.
yeah, yes. And she went to treatment for 3 months and has never gone back. I mean, she just healed and healed, and it's just
Wow,
so beautiful that she has her life back and she's just thriving. She's a phenomenal mother and wife and just human being with a
wonderful.
beautiful heart. But at the time, when I was taking care of her sons and at home, and it really ended up, just being such a painful, difficult time.
For
I
sure.
got to that point
Yes.
where I just said, I can't do it anymore. I can't try to fix anything and I can't try to make this work. And it was the moment that I did that that actually life started really igniting and taking off in beautiful ways that I had never imagined.
It definitely must have been so painful for you to see your daughter, in that stage. So I'm sure when your heart went out to the universe, to that higher power, it was like surrender, as you
Mhm.
rightly said, and that's when I guess the magic started to happen
Yes.
because yeah, there's no turning around from there. It's just your heart. heart was so much in sync with your higher self, which was able to maybe attract the goodness, maybe able to attract in whatever means the help, the positivity, the guidance from that core of yours. So yeah, you're right. I mean, we just need to surrender to the divine because it's difficult to understand when it is happening to you. But when you look back and you connect the points or the dots, you're like, oh, I'm glad it happened because it has turned out to be much more beautiful or much more better than I could imagine in my limited
Yeah.
mindset at that particular point.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's been my experience. Absolutely.
And one of the examples that I always remember, I was in Dubai for 3 years doing an international action project over there, and for some reasons, it was given over to a different company to manage the show, and they reduced our salaries by nearly 40%. And I was like, well, that's quite a lot. I could understand 10%, I could understand 15%, but 40 is too much. And because it's the Gulf, you have the insurance, which is given along with the visa. And so this company is like, we can't give you the medical insurance. We don't know what's going to happen about that. And I was like, what are you talking about? That's the primary thing that needs to be given. So whatever happened at that point, it was quite influx of emotions for me because I love that profile, that character which I was playing. It was an antagonist, and I was like, okay, I need to get back home as in Bombay, India, and I need to start from scratch. Get in touch with all the casting directors who I have not been in touch for 3 years, and entire rigmarole to start again. So I was like, what is going on? This was amazing, and now I have to go back and start from scratch. But now when I look back, it's so beautiful because after coming back, things have only gotten better, and I've always wanted to be in front of the camera to act, and that gives me a lot of solace, a lot of peace, and a lot of I can sense this is what I want to do. And the way the universe has transpired, the pandemic hit, and then my father wasn't well for a couple of months. So I can see it was preordained for me to come back, take care of the things that need to be taken care of right now, right here, and then proceed towards the future. So at that particular moment when we are going through so much of turmoil, if I may say so, the life experiences, but we just need to have faith and surrender and move forward. And then it would be a different story altogether. So I can completely relate to your experience. I'm sure it would have been a very difficult time, but now looking at how you shared, it's just so beautiful. Looking back 4 years down the line, and now it's a different universe altogether for you, for your daughter, and her life.
Yes, thank you. Yes, and I love how you said that about how we can look back and see all these different points and how they
Yes,
really did line up to support us being exactly where we are right now. That all those dots had to connect, even at the time when maybe it didn't make sense. There are gifts that
true.
come out of each one of those experiences. And I think, that's hopefully our hope that we help share with people is that yes, we all go through these painful and hard times, and they actually might be what ends up these hard times that gut us, like we talked about in the beginning. Those can become the match points as we allow those things to
Yes,
heal. That then
true.
from those experiences, I wouldn't have had much of a book to write if I hadn't have gone through anything
Mm,
hard my whole life. When
so
I'm
true.
sharing with my clients, when I'm sharing with my transformational coaching clients, uh, you know, I have a depth of understanding and empathy and compassion because I have been at those places where I have been on my knees, where I have been, just so brokenhearted and feeling gutted completely. And it's from those
Mm,
places, though, that we are able, as we heal, then to help hold other people, right? We can hold other people and show them that they can do that as well. They don't have to stay stuck in pain, that whatever the challenges are, those too will pass. and
So
that we
true. It's like
get together. Yeah.
so true. And that's when, your clients and the people around us will totally connect with us because we have gone through it. You have gone through it and experienced it yourself. So it's not just words that you're talking to them about doing this and doing that. It's like, oh, Stephanie has been through this. If she can come out of it, so can I. So it's like an empowerment for them. It's like rising like a phoenix, to say so, from the ashes, you know.
I
So yes,
love that.
so absolutely, absolutely. So that brings us to the next question. As the way of life has changed so quickly from how we had 2019 and then we had 2020, what should be the best way of life in 2021?
Wow, such a good question. Yes, yes. My hope around that, I think the best life in 2021 is where we start living more from our hearts and our
Mm,
focus becomes more on what we have that's similar, what we have in common, instead of
mm,
the places where we're divided. That we need to start having those connected conversations where we can hold one another with an open, loving heart and enter into a conversation where it's about connection, it's about understanding. It's not about trying to prove who's right or wrong or you have to agree with me.
mm,
So that is my hope that each one of us, I mean, really, it's a charge to each one of us individually to do that work, to live more, to dwell within our hearts where we're able to access that part of us that can hold someone else's opinion that might not match ours. Because I
mm,
think we're really, because we've all experienced this pandemic, globally, I think there's been this awareness more than ever, like we are all in this together. And how
yes.
beautiful if we can start this collective caring for one another. And so that it's coming from that place. My vision for 2021 is we start living more and more that way, where
Right.
we start moving out of just pain, suffering, isolation, to actualizing a sense of interconnectedness, combined vision for what we can create on this world, on this earth together. And
So
I
beautiful.
really feel it possible. I truly, truly do. And I think these are the important conversations. Learning to have those difficult conversations and leaning into what I call our growth edge, which is never comfortable at first. I'm going to
Mm.
challenge myself. How can I open up? How can I be more vulnerable? How can I be more authentic? How
How
can
can I
I,
trust?
yes, yes, how can I trust? And how
Mm.
then can I be more tolerant and less judgmental of my brothers and sisters here in the world? That's, to me,
Right.
that's the vision of 2021.
Wow. That's beautiful. You just made me go into a state of a dream where it would be so beautiful for everybody to understand this, to just let go, to have the connectedness with each other. Like you've mentioned in the book also all the clients that you get with the husband and wife and how they are. Uh, One is having a fight plan, one has a flight, and they have different ways of dealing with the situation. One wants to just settle and keep quiet and ruminate and then come back. Other wants to be at it at that, just instant. So yeah, if we are able to understand that each one of us have a different way of dealing with things, a different way of experiencing life, and to have empathy and to understand and to connect at the core, keeping the ego at the door, as you have mentioned in the book as well. That would be, uh, it would definitely change the vibe of the entire world, of the universe. I mean, the pandemic has given us a cleaner Mother Earth, a much more vibrant, where she's having more oxygen to breathe in. The skies are beautiful. They're not muddy, they're not smoggy or foggy anymore as compared to how it was in 2019 and earlier. So yeah, if we could, I mean, I love the way you explained it. It's just beautiful, the connectedness, interconnectedness.
Yeah, so we can allow this to be, this is the emerging. Oftentimes I feel like things have to come up to be healed. And so oftentimes, like 2020, we saw so much pain and ugliness and all the
Mm,
things in the world. And oftentimes those things, they have to come up so that then they can be healed.
right.
Not aware that something's festering underneath the surface. Like if you had a splinter,
True.
right, it would just get
True.
more and more infected. So it's got to kind of come up and then we can pull it out. We can clean it. We can do
Right.
something about it. And so to me,
Right.
that truly is the hope. And the hope is that that change starts within each one of us. And again, it's that power where, yes, we all are connected. I love the image of that we are the ocean and we are each one of those single drops in the ocean.
Droplets. Yeah.
So each one of us, we are essential parts of this human body. We're essential cells of this human body. And each person is so important that they love themselves, that they learn how to befriend themselves, because it starts there. As we can be kind and loving to ourselves, truly, learning how to do that. And I talk about some of that in my book. I
Yes.
definitely talk about that in my classes and my groups that I do. I just think that's an essential piece, because as we make that peace and we have that joy inside of us, then that is where we're coming from. We have more than to give. We're coming from a place of resiliency, and we're coming from a place where we're not just, not caring for ourselves and then we're depleted trying to care for others. It doesn't work.
Mm, so true. To have that grit and the resilience, that determination, that you are wholesome in your own way. And that itself gives you such a magnanimous vibe towards your own self that you want to encapsulate everybody around you. And it does not come from the point where you have this huge ego that I am big and I have everything and I can take care of everything. It's not that, but it's the heart that we're talking about. Even if in our own small way, the way you mentioned in the book about greeting the homeless people, that one person who was coming behind you and he was following you and you were waiting at the signal to walk past. And he just said, "Good morning," I believe, and it just changed your perception and you walked away. So even in the limiting self, we can create so much of joy and so much change the trajectory of a thought process, bring that smile to a heart. That itself would be the emerging in 2021.
Yes, and that's so true, because in that example that you just shared, that man actually gave me a gift that day. I
Yes.
remember feeling nervous when he was first coming up, and we do have a lot of homeless people here. And as he was coming up, I was like, a little hesitant, like, is he going to want to have money? Is he going to ask me for money? And he just smiled at me and
Which is
literally,
natural to feel that way.
oh, it's
It's
absolutely
natural to
natural.
feel. Yes.
So, and like I said, we have to kind of lean into our growth edge and just to greet someone, to show simple kindness. That's non-threatening. That doesn't cost us anything. We can say hello and we can greet someone without any risk of that person, feeling like we need to give that person anything more. And, in that particular situation, when that gentleman came up to me at the light, he stopped and he said, "You're really beautiful." And then when the light turned, he took off. He didn't want anything from me. He
Right.
was giving
Right.
me the gift. He was, making the deposit in my emotional
Yes.
bank
In your
account.
account. Yes.
So, what a huge transformative moment where I realized I need to start opening my heart. And especially now when so many of us are wearing masks and you
Yes.
see people outside, it means so much. We don't have to walk around, with
Yeah.
our head down. It means so much to just greet one another and just say hello and good morning and how are you. Those simple kindnesses really do, they make a difference as they land.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That brings us to the next question, Stephanie. How can one control nine emotions and raise oneself to a higher frequency? We've covered a bit about this, but what do you think? How can one control the various emotions that we have and elevate ourselves uh, to a higher frequency in terms of the mundane life or the life that we live every day? We have umpteen number of thoughts and emotions running in our minds. So, what's the best way to get back?
Well, so here's, I think, one of the quickest ways that we can get back is to, first of all, this is that thing of befriending whatever it is that shows up for us. Because when we
True.
resist the negative emotions, so you have to think of this. If I'm saying, oh, I'm so anxious that I'm feeling anxious, or, I'm mad that I'm mad, we're intensifying
Mm,
the emotion. Or if I, even worse is when we say, I'm not going to let myself feel sad. I'm not going to let myself feel
mm.
mad. And then it's just like a volcano. We're just shoving it down
Chaos.
and it's
Yeah.
going to come out in other ways. So when we can learn to befriend, and by befriend, I truly mean just notice what's going on, because our emotions are just energy. So
Mm,
like, if you notice, like when you feel anxious, you might have a tightness in your throat or a little
true.
butterfly, they say, in your stomach, or your chest is tight. Those are
Mm,
the physical manifestations of our emotions. It's uncomfortable, but I think there's a
mm,
beautiful acronym, which is RAIN, which is
right.
Tara Brach, who is just a beautiful teacher. She talks about this acronym as being the quickest way to like move through the painful or the
Hmm.
challenging emotions that rise up, so you can return to a natural state of presence. And that's our natural state of presence is when we're in a
Hmm.
state of well-being. And that's our
Mm,
goal. One of my meditation teachers said to me, if you're not feeling joy, then
hmm.
there's some block by the ego. The ego is blocking something, because our
Wow.
natural spark of who we are, that essence of who we are, is joy. When we're just in that place.
So true.
So how do we get there? So the R is recognize. So you just recognize that you're having the emotion and you name it. As you name it, it's almost like instead of saying, I'm angry, you say, I'm
Hmm.
feeling anger. It's kind of like you take it out and look at it. Oh, I'm feeling anger. I'm not it. I am not anger.
Yes.
I'm
So true.
feeling it, right? And then the A, and this is the one people have a hard time with sometimes, is to allow. So the A is I'm going
Mm,
to allow myself to have that emotion. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to start
mm,
telling myself a bunch of stories about it and keep letting it get bigger and bigger. I'm going to move into the I of RAIN, which is I'm going to investigate. And we
okay.
investigate by going within wherever that energy center is. It's like, where am I feeling this emotion in my body? And so
Mm,
let's say that I'm feeling sad and I notice it just in my guts. Instead of telling a story about what this means, I just
hmm.
take a deep breath into that place and just notice that it's there. And as I breathe into that place, it starts to move. That energy starts to shift. And so pretty soon I can come back to the N, which is natural presence. And through our
All
breath
right.
and through our thoughts, we can really bring ourselves to the present moment. So it's not about
Wow.
rejecting. It's not about rejecting what shows
Mm.
up. We're human beings, you know, on this
Then we have
world.
our emotions.
Yeah, we're going to have all the emotions. So to embrace this human experience. We've heard that saying over and over again. We're spiritual beings having an emotional,
Yes.
or excuse me, having a human experience.
Human
That,
experience.
yeah, a human experience. And so again, it's embracing ourselves, being with whatever shows up today, breathing through it, bringing yourself to natural presence, and you're going to notice so much more ease and grace in your life through that.
Wow. I'm definitely going to remember put that and try that for sure. Next time when I feel any of the emotions which are not natural. Thank you so much for sharing that. Wonderful. Viewers, I hope you're able to understand everything because it's so simple. Stephanie makes it so simple for us. It's like spoon feeding. Like, okay, this is what you need to do, and this is how it needs to be done, and voila, a different lifestyle altogether.
But we
Wonderful.
overcomplicate things, don't we? We just make it, and that's why this book was important too, because I wanted it to be, these are the simple things that truly work. We don't, bringing yourself into a place of peace literally can be three
Right.
deep breaths, right? As you breathe into your belly, you bring your attention to your belly. All of a sudden, I feel better. I feel
Yeah.
more centered.
Yeah.
I
You
feel
feel
grounded.
calmer.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So true. Wonderful. That brings us to the next question. What is your mantra to a happy and fulfilling life?
Hmm. Oh, that's such a great question. Wow. Um, you know, truly, this also came to me during a meditation, and it just started going in my head over and over and over again. And this has just been a couple months ago, so this would be my new mantra. Um,
Okay.
but truly, what it was saying over and over again was, the power is love. The power is love. The power is love. The
Wow.
power is.
Mm,
And, it's like when we get to that place, it's like the power isn't in things. It's not in these
mm,
external programs for happiness. It's really truly the power of our existence, I think, really when we access that place in our heart and we can come
mm,
from that loving place, whether it's
mm,
loving towards ourselves, loving towards one another, to our animals, to the taking care of the
mm.
planet.
Right.
That's where the power is. I think we have the power to transcend all kinds of difficulties and circumstances and situations in our lives when we can access that power. And you don't have to have money to access it.
Mm.
You don't have to have any kind of social status. It's always available to us. And it's literally
True.
a breath away. So that would be my mantra.
Wow. The power of love. Wow. It's a beautiful mantra. And it's so empowering if you think about it, the power of love. And each one of us has it within us, which you rightly said. No
Yeah.
societal status, no materialistic stuff needed. You just within. It's actually empowering. Wow.
Yes.
Power of
Yes.
love.
And
And makes me
yes.
think.
And
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead. Yes.
No, no, please go ahead.
I was just thinking, it's that important thing that we don't have to let our past or our circumstances or things that we've been through, even decisions we've made or old behavior define us. We
Hmm.
can start letting ourselves be defined by that. The more that we access that love and
Right.
the power of
Right.
love, then yes, we can allow that to start defining us, because that's the part of us that is interconnected. That's the part of us that really goes beyond the borders of where we live, time or
Absolutely.
space. It's where we can really
Absolutely.
all.
And if you look at it, the way we are also interacting, it is a way of power of love because we're sitting on different continents and having this heart-to-heart conversation. It is that power of connecting to each other, to have the egos put aside or whatever it is, and to connect with another soul, to connect with another human, and to let as many people understand this concept of living a higher frequency life, of living a higher consciousness, so that you'll have a beautiful life. It's like increasing a tribe, to say so, the tribe who has the higher frequency, the higher consciousness, who will keep going ahead and have ripple effects in society.
Yes. Yes, that's the exciting part, right? That it is that if we get to
Yeah,
that place, then it's like being a pebble in the pond. It's just these beautiful
yes,
concentric circles that come out from us. Yeah,
exactly,
I love that.
exactly. Wonderful. So thank you so much for being who you are and always, having that optimism and the way you bring the best out of other people through your own life. You're doing an amazingly noble work. Seriously,
Mm,
Stephanie, thank you so much for doing that.
thank you.
That brings us to the next question. How important are negative experiences in one's life to shape one's future? I know a lot of people, not many that have come across, but a few I've come across, and they have been very, very fortunate in their life that they haven't, what's the word that I must use? They haven't been able to see the unfortunate part of life, or they haven't seen something drastic which would have turned their world around. They've been very fortunate and blessed, but they don't understand what it means to go into the depths of despair and stuff. So, how important is a negative experience for anyone's life to, to shape a beautiful future? Is it important, or can we still be in a higher state of life, and that requires a lot of spiritual revolution inside to see life from that perspective? But you feel, is it important to have negative experiences, or we can have a beautiful, positive in
Wow.
this human experience?
Yeah, so that's really such an interesting and deep question, truly, because I would say that my own negative experiences have helped open me up and helped open my heart up.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
we also know people, I mean, I've known people that go through negative experiences and it shuts them down, where they're not
Mm.
able to recover or they're not able to be like the phoenix you said rising from the ashes. I do think, negative experiences can help bring us a sense of compassion or maybe a deeper understanding for other people's pain. But I would
Hmm.
love to get away from the belief, this kind of ingrained belief that we've had that we have to suffer in order to become more enlightened or in order to really get the depth of what life is about. I don't think I
Mm.
think life does include suffering. I mean, so when we accept that that's true, that can really be helpful. And I don't
Hmm.
think we have to suffer, like you said, to become more spiritual or to become more evolved as human beings. I think we can also
Mm.
become there just by being greater servants to one another.
Right.
Practicing, doing the practicing of opening our hearts, doing the practicing of loving kindness. So I think
Mm.
pain can be a very swift teacher. It's like a sword, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
it can really open us up. And yet I think, I've known people that had, and the truth is though, you know what the truth is, Abhishek, I don't know anyone that has gotten through life unscathed. Everyone I know has
Agree.
had problems and conflicts. I,
Mm.
I don't want
Mm.
to say that we have to have them to grow, and they can
Hmm.
be very potent fertilizer, which causes us to grow.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Right. Yes, it's absolutely making sense. So true. Yeah, and the beauty of it is when it builds your character when you go through a situation. You come out of it becoming a stronger person. And yes, few people, few souls, few humans do take a while to come out of it, few maybe many years. But once they actually come out of it, they feel so much better about their own life that they could see through it, and they did not bog down or they did not fall, but came out stronger, more revived and rejuvenated, like being reborn, through those sufferings or those instances in life which brought us down. So
Yeah.
yeah, I also come from the point of view of that we must have situations so that gives us a different perspective. That in a way, it makes you feel, wow, okay, I have the courage and conviction to see through this. I didn't know I had that before the situation cropped up. So it's actually seeing different dimensions of your own being and living a fuller life.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think that you're exactly right. Sometimes it gives us that eyesight, if you will, that we wouldn't have
Yeah,
had without it. And I do have to
right.
say, I've also had deep moments of truly opening my heart in different ways. Just I can't be a bigger advocate for meditation and mindfulness,
Right.
because that also is the place that I think has transformed my life and who I am so profoundly.
Wow. Wonderful. So tell me, Stephanie, has there been instances where you were having sessions with your clients, and if you can share about one experience that actually really moved you and touched you and made you a different person altogether after that experience, has that happened, or it's always your personal experiences which have honed you into the human that you are today?
Hmm. No, I think, of course, when you witness, I really had to think about that. When you witness, when you witness other people's pain to those degrees, because I have
Hmm.
worked with so many people, being a trauma specialist,
30 years, yes, it's a long
yeah,
time.
I've worked with all different kinds of people. So here's a story I can share with you that really, really moved me and was a life-changing moment.
Hmm.
Um, this was back in, boy, early 90s. I worked on an
Wow.
adolescent psychiatric unit.
Hmm.
And the kids that we had there, they were all in a lockdown unit. So they
Hmm.
were really had some emotional difficulties, and they came from all over the country in America. And
Hmm.
this one kid was an African American kid who was out of a gang in Chicago, and
Wow.
he was really big and really tough.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I had gone down to tell him it was time for him to go to bed. It was my
Hmm.
shift. I had a night shift. And he was just like, I'm not going. I'm not going. And was like calling me names and was like kind of,
Oh my goodness.
puffing up.
Bullying, trying to bully you up.
Yeah,
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 bullying
yeah.
you.
And so I acted like I wasn't scared. And I'm like, you just need
Hmm.
to get in your room. And he finally, thank God, went to his room. When I went back to the nurse's station, I just started crying because I was so
Oh
scared
my
of
goodness.
the kid.
Yeah.
But so what ended up happening though is one of my girlfriends on the
Mhm.
unit was the activities therapist. And we had something, are you familiar with what a high ropes course is?
Yes, it's kind of a exercise, right?
It's where they look like telephone poles and then they just have like high wires between
Right,
them.
right, right, right. Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So so she said, I'm gonna put you two up on this high wire together the next day because we'd had this conflict that night. So
Right.
the next day, we had to both of us climb up these like telephone poles. And then the goal was
Right.
we had to meet in the middle of this wire. And we were belayed up, we
Okay.
had harnesses on. So if we fell, we would still be safe. But we had to
Yeah.
help each other around each other's bodies and then
Hmm.
get to the opposite side,
To the other side.
the other side. So this kid who was so tough, when he got up to the top of the poles, he started crying because he was afraid of
Oh.
heights. So this big bully tough kid all of a sudden was very, very scared.
Mm.
And so when we got to the middle, there was a moment where I thought, this kid could throw me off. If he
Right.
was been mad at me,
Violent.
but
Yeah.
very gently helped me around his body to get to the other side. And then we both went to the other ends. And when they belayed us down to the ground and we took
Hmm.
off our harnesses, this kid ran over to me and swooped me up in his arms and just gave me this big hug. And it was like that
Wow.
fear broke him open. And we went back into
Wow.
the adolescent unit and sat at the end of that hallway for like an hour and a half just talking. And it was like it stripped away all the ego. It stripped away when he was in that fear. all this
Mm.
bravado, and he could just be real. And we could just be two souls up
Humans,
there.
two souls. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting helping each other to be safe. And
Wow.
so things like that, they became these life lessons for me. And I've had so
Wow.
many of those, I can't even begin to tell you. I've been really, even though, like you said, it started as something that was not pleasant at all, and yet
Exactly.
what a
Exactly.
profound lesson out of it.
I myself, after listening to this, I had moist eyes when you're saying it. I can imagine what it must have done to you as a person when it actually happened. It must
Yeah.
be that something like an unlocking of the door within you, one of the doors that we all have, so many doors of emotions and, experiencing something so true at the end of it, of just being connected. And the beautiful thing which I've also shared in the book about contribution. So this was actually contributing to each other's growth in a way, that both of you became two souls to connect each other. Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing this with us
Yeah.
and with the viewers. Wow, it's been amazing, Stephanie, to be speaking with you. It's been an early morning for me, which has been worth it, and I'm so happy to have had you on our show. You've actually, through your book, firstly, you really transformed a lot of things which I was thinking about, and it was like reaffirmation, a reminder, ki, buddy, you need to, check on these things that you're doing in your day-to-day life. And a lot of clairvoyance after reading the book and after having a conversation with you, it's as if the book was beautiful, but the person who has written the book is to a different level altogether. Having a face-to-face conversation with you, it really warms my heart. And thank you for giving us your precious time, Stephanie. And if you want to share something with the audience, with the viewers, please feel free to share whatever you would like to.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that lovely, lovely, lovely just message. Thank you so much. And I'm so thankful, and I just feel honored to be here and to share this time with you as well and with your listeners. And again, I guess if there was something I would want to leave with listeners, it would be that they can start right now. It's never too late to live happily ever after. It's never too late to start. And that we can make the choice right now. Like, I'm going to start today treating myself more kindly. I'm going to start today opening up my heart more. I'm going to start today noticing ways I can show up for myself so that I can also show up for others better. So it's by allowing ourselves to heal that we are going to heal this world. And I really think we have the power to do that. We just have to make that choice and say, yes, I will be the person that starts with changing what's within me. And then we can share that with others.
Sorry, Stephanie, we lost you for a moment. There was some internet snarl. If you could please share it again, the last few things. To open up your
Sure.
heart, we heard it till there. I'm sorry about that. There was a network issue.
No problem at all. What I was sharing is just the importance of us making the decision that we start doing the work today and knowing that we can be the
Mm.
change. I love Gandhi's phrase, be the change that you want to see in the world, because it really is true that it does begin with us. And when we allow ourselves to heal, then we really can. We love ourselves and we give ourselves kindness. When we show up for ourselves, then we're better able to show up for others. And through doing that, we can really start helping to not only heal ourselves, but help heal one another. And that's how we help change the world.
Wow, that's a beautiful message. Thank you so much, Stephanie. So, viewers, please remember Stephanie has written a beautiful book by the name The Spark Igniting Your Best Life. It is available on Amazon. My word to you, please get your hands on it and read it. It's going to change your life. And her movie is also going to be released this year on any of the major platforms. And it's such a beautiful time because 2020 was so difficult, and your movie is going to come at such a beautiful time where people are again being reborn, they're changing their mindsets, and it's going to hit them right in their hearts. And it's going to
Mm,
be fantastic. And you can get in touch with Stephanie on our website, www.stephaniejames.world, or stephaniethespark.as.me. It's written down in the ticker. And thank you so much, Stephanie, to be with us on our show. You are invincible. And viewers, thank you so much for being with us. And it has been a fantastic conversation. I am enlightened. And thanks to you, Stephanie. Thank you so much.
thank you. Thank you. Much love.
Take care. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.